let us continue our session of maternal adaptation to pregnancy. With now we'll see the changes in respiratory system. So what are the changes in respiratory system in pregnancy, and now let us understand that. So if you see, you should remember the numbers like 2, 4, 6. Okay, so what are this? There is 2 centimeter change in transverse diameter of the chest or the lung. Okay, and 4 centimeter, actually the diaphragm is pushed 4 centimeter by the uterus. Okay, uterus push diaphragm 4 centimeters, and 6 centimeters is the circumference of the chest increases by 6 centimeters. Okay, circumference of the chest increase by 6 centimeters. So these things we need to see in the respiratory changes in pregnancy. 2, 4, 6. 2 means the transverse diameter of the chest is increased by 2 centimeters. 4 centimeters means uterus is pushing the diaphragm 4 centimeters. 6 centimeters means the circumference of the whole chest is increasing 6 centimeters. Now coming to the subcostal angle. In the normal person, if you see this subcostal angle, it will be at the level of 68 degrees. Normal level is 68 degrees. But in the case of pregnant female, you will see it would change to 1 or 3 degrees. That is, it is going to obtuse angle. So the subcostal angle will be obtuse in the case of pregnant female. Now coming to some important parameters like which we know, of course, like inspiratory reserve volume. Inspiratory reserve volume is actually unchanged in respiration in pregnancy. And coming to tidal volume will increase, and expiratory reserve volume and reserve volume both will decrease. And you know, this both together are called as functional residual capacity. Of course, if both will decrease, functional residual capacity will drop. So if you see here whole scenario, the total lung capacity will also slightly decrease. So what is this? How to remember this? We have a simple technique. So first what you need to see is the inspiratory reserve volume with the tidal volume with the expiratory reserve volume. Inspiratory reserve volume, tidal volume, expiratory reserve volume. 3 together is called vital capacity, and this vital capacity remains unchanged. Okay. So remember that the inspiratory reserve volume is unchanged and even the vital capacity is unchanged, but the vital capacity is the inspiratory reserve volume plus expiratory reserve volume plus tidal volume. Okay, now coming to total lung capacity, as we'll already discuss, the total lung capacity drops. Okay, next coming to parameters which increase the pregnancy. So what are increase in pregnancy? Mainly to remember this, you can remember a mnemonic ICTV movie. ICTV movie. What is this? IC is the inspiratory capacity. Inspiratory capacity is increased during pregnancy, and TV is the tidal volume, and MV is the minute ventilation. So these parameters are increased in pregnancy. So now let us see what parameters are decreased in pregnancy. Decreased not. What parameters are unchanged in pregnancy? So unchanged parameters are, you can remember a mnemonic IRV. What is this IRV? I stands for inspiratory reserve volume, and R stands for respiratory rate, and V stands for vital capacity. Okay, so the parameters which increase is ICTV movie. Okay, so to remember this one, that is inspiratory capacity, tidal volume, minute ventilation. The parameters which are unchanged are, you can remember like inspiratory reserve volume. The first one is I is itself inspiratory reserve volume, R is respiratory rate, V is vital capacity. So these are unchanged. So now coming to pregnant females, as we discussed here in the before itself, that the functional residual capacity is dropped. So what happens when the functional residual capacity is dropped? There is less air in the lungs, like less air is trapped in the lungs. That means the blood carbon dioxide is dropped. You know, when the carbon dioxide is dropped, it is also called as respiratory alkalosis. So whenever carbon dioxide is more, it is acidosis, respiratory acidosis. Whenever the carbon dioxide is low, that is respiratory alkalosis. So to compensate this respiratory alkalosis, kidney will start excreting more bicarbonate. So kidney will start excreting more bicarbonate. So as a result of this, as more bicarbonate has gone out, it will in turn lead to respiratory acidosis. So this is very important. we need to remember. So when functional residual capacity is dropped, the air filling into the lungs has dropped, so the carbon dioxide which is reaching in the blood has dropped, so it is leading to respiratory alkalosis. So in compensation for it, kidney will start excreting more bicarbonate. This in turn will lead to respiratory acidosis. So this is we need to remember. Next, coming to tidal volume. If tidal volume is increasing, then the amount of air is also increasing in the lungs, right? So this is leading to blood oxygen levels increasing. So this we need to understand in tidal volume. Next, there is another effect, that is the Bohr's effect. So what Bohr's effect says it, the oxygen binding capacity with the blood increases due to decreased bicarbonate. Here in this case we discussed that the bicarbonate is decreasing because of because of this functional residual capacity is dropping. So the Bohr's effect says that the oxygen binding capacity with the blood is increasing because the bicarbonate is dropping. Okay, and in before cases we already seen that in pregnancy the blood oxygen carrying capacity is increasing and the oxygen consumption is also increasing. Okay, so now coming to another thing which we need to remember is heterovenous oxygen gradient will decrease. Okay, arteriovenous oxygen gradient will drop. Okay, now let us see the changes in GIT during pregnancy. Okay, changes in GIT. So you have seen the changes in respiratory system. So what happens to the GI system? Especially because of progesterone, progesterone is a smooth muscle relaxant. So what it does to the lower esophageal sphincter. In the lower esophageal sphincter, as it is a smooth muscle relaxant, it will relax the sphincter. So if this lower esophageal sphincter is relaxed, there is GERD problem, that is the gastric reflux problem. So the food which we eat may also come into the esophagus in pregnancy. And next, coming to another problem is gallbladder. So in gallbladder, what is going on? The motility of the gallbladder is decreased because it's a relaxant. Progesterone is a relaxant. Another function is GI motility. The GI motility is normal in the case of antenatal period, but during the time of labor, the progesterone will act on it and the GI motility is dropped. When the GI motility is dropped, during labor times, pregnant females should not eat that much because the GI motility is low. Next, coming to vomiting in pregnancy. So why there is vomiting in pregnancy? It is actually a physiological problem, and it is most commonly caused most commonly because of HCG. So HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, is the one which is causing the vomitings in the females, pregnant females. So this vomiting is most commonly seen in first trimester. So the first trimester, especially between 9 to 10 weeks. So between 9 to 10 weeks you see vomitings in the female, but it will be decreasing, that it will subside by 16 to 20 weeks. Okay, then actually there are also some vomiting in the female which will not subside by 16 to 20 weeks, and that is serious case. We'll discuss it. That is actually called as hyperemesis gravidum. We'll discuss that. But this is a normal physiological vomiting which is because of HCG, that is between 9 to 10 weeks, and it will subside by itself by 16 to 20 weeks. So this type of vomiting is also most common in primary pregnancy when compared with following pregnancies. And this kind of vomiting is intolerant to liquids. So if any female is having this kind of problem, they should use more solids when compared with liquids. Because of liquids, the vomiting will increase more. And for this, no admission is needed in the hospital. It's a normal physiological. You can give treatment for this like doxylamine. 10 milligrams of doxylamine is given, and also pyridoxine is given. Pyridoxine 2 tabs at bedtime. So we should use pyridoxine 2 tabs at bedtime. Or you can also use hyoscine. Hyoscine is an antihistaminic. So these drugs are used mainly to treat this kind of physiological vomiting, that is doxylamine 10 milligrams, pyridoxine 2 tablets at the bedtime, and hyoscine, that is an antihistamine. Next, as I said, there is one serious vomiting condition in pregnant female, that is hyperemesis gravidum. So hyperemesis gravidarum is a non-physiological excessive vomiting, and because of this vomiting in the female, you will also observe weight loss which is greater than 5% of pre-pregnancy weight, and also in this female you will observe ketosis, and also you will see the vitals are unstable. So in this kind of female we need admission, we should admit this patient because it is a not physiological condition, and it is also seen especially in first trimester, that is between the 9 to 10 weeks. So we should be able to differentiate whether this is a normal physiological vomiting or a serious hyperemissive gravidarum in the pregnant female. So this, what is the causes of this hyperemesis gravidarum? For this also here the main reason is excessive HCG. So there in the normal case also because of HCG, but here the HCG is more excessive when compared with normal, and also there is more estrogen and more progesterone. All these are leading to this hyperemesis gravidarum. And the clinical features which are related to this is metabolic alkalosis. So metabolic alkalosis, electrolyte abnormalities like hypokalemia, and also you will see ketosis. So all these are seen in this condition. So LFT can also be abnormal in 50% of cases, and this can lead to Wernicke encephalopathy. What is it? Wernicke encephalopathy, LFT. LFT is abnormal in 50% of cases, and Wernicke encephalopathy can be caused. Okay, Wernicke encephalopathy. This is mainly because of thiamine deficiency and also vitamin K deficiency, and sometimes there may be also be H. pylori infections in this case. Next, coming to scoring system. What is scoring system? Scoring system is by using mother PUQE scoring, PUQ scoring, and also Rhodes. You can use the Rhodes index here. Okay, next coming to management. So how to manage this kind of vomitings? Okay, the management is NPO, give IV fluids, use antihistamines like promethazine, and also use prochlorpromazine, and a dopamine antagonist like metclopramide, and last drug is ondansetron. So this kind of drugs are used in the case of management of this type. Now finally let us see what is the changes in renal system. So we have seen respiratory system, we have seen GIT system, now renal system. So there are some anatomical changes like the size of the kidney is increasing by 1 centimeter, and urinary stasis is due to progesterone. Because of progesterone, urinary stasis means urine is not coming out. Okay, urinary stasis, and hydroureter may also occur more on the right side. So right side hydroureter, and bladder mucosa is congested. And intravesicular pressure increases. And intraurethral pressure also increases. So intravesical pressure, intraurethral pressure both are increasing in the case of renal system. Physiological changes in the renal system is there is increase in renal blood flow in the case of pregnancy. So whenever there is pregnancy in the renal system, there is increased renal blood flow. So because of this there is increased GFR. So because of this there is increased filtration, and because of this increase excretion of urine, of urea, uric acid, creatinine. So decrease S urea, S uric acid, S creatinine. Okay, so this you need to remember. Note that the most common organ involved in PIH is kidney. So most of the organ involved in PIH is kidney, very important. Next, coming to in PIH, the GFR is decreased. So everything revert. In the normal case of pregnancy, you will see GFR is increased, everything is increased. But in PIH, GFR is decreased, kidneys are affected. And most common cause of UTI in pregnancy is E. coli. So urinary tract infections you see in pregnancy mainly because of E. coli. Asymptomatic bacteriuria can lead to preterm labor and pyelonephritis. So bacteriuria may lead to preterm labor and also pyelonephritis. This is important. Next, in spite of treatment of asymptomatic bacteriuria has recurrence rate. So even if you treat, there is recurrence rate of 30%. Okay. So what antibiotics you can use in urinary tract infection in the case of pregnant female? Antibiotics you can use, drug of choice, nitrofurantoin. nitrofurantoin 100 milligrams bedtime for 3 days or 100 milligrams for 10 days. Okay, so this is a drug of choice. Or for recurrent cases, nitrofurantoin only give 100 milligrams bedtime but for 21 days. Okay, and also you can use ampicillin, amoxicillin, cephalosporins, levofloxacin, ciprofloxacin, all this, but the main drug of choice is nitrofurantoin. Okay, so now this is the last topic, that is the changes in endocrine system. So endocrine system changes in pregnancy. So what are the changes you find in endocrine? Here also we need to draw a graph, like what is going to increase, what is going to decrease. So what is going to increase? All adrenal hormones. All adrenal hormones increase in pregnancy. Okay, and from pancreas already we discussed, insulin secretion will increase. And in pituitary gland, if you see especially the pituitary gland, the size and weight of pituitary gland increase by 12%. Okay, anterior pituitary is more growing when compared with posterior pituitary. So anterior pituitary more than posterior pituitary. The next thing is, after delivery if there is postpartum hemorrhage, it will lead to anterior pituitary necrosis. So sometimes after postpartum hemorrhage, the anterior pituitary will undergo necrosis, and this is called as Sheehan syndrome. Okay, this important syndrome. And next, growth hormone, prolactin, ACTH, oxytocin, all of these hormones will increase. Growth hormone, prolactin, ACTH, oxytocin, all of them will increase. Okay, especially oxytocin will increase in the late third trimester. Okay, so this is important regarding the hormones which are increasing in endocrine, like during pregnancy, endocrine glands which are increasing during pregnancy. All adrenal hormones are increasing, especially insulin is increasing from the pancreas. Among pituitary gland, the size and weight of pituitary gland is increasing 12%, that to anterior pituitary increasing more than posterior pituitary. In the postpartum hemorrhage, anterior pituitary may undergo necrosis, that is called Sheehan syndrome. Growth hormone, prolactin, ACTH, oxytocin, all will increase, especially oxytocin will increase in late third trimester. So now let us see what are the hormones decreasing. So as we said here, all adrenal hormones are increasing except DHEA. This DHEA hormone is decreasing in among adrenal hormones. Next, you have LH hormone decreasing, FSH hormone decreasing, TSH hormone decreasing. Even though TSH will decrease, it will decrease in normal limits. Okay, but FSH and LH will decrease a lot in pregnancy. So this is the important things. Next, coming to pituitary hormones that remain normal. So among all these pituitary hormones, the normal pituitary hormone even in the pregnancy is ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone. And the most common cause of hypothyroidism. What is the most common cause of hypothyroidism? That is, in developing countries, if you see iodine deficiency, because of iodine deficiency there is hypothyroidism. And in developed countries there is Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Okay, so in developing countries iodine, in already developed countries Hashimoto's thyroiditis is the most common cause of hypothyroidism. That is hypo, I'm saying here hypo. Okay, so what is the most common cause of hyperthyroidism in pregnancy? That is Graves' disease. So this is very important point. Graves' disease is a most important for increasing hyperthyroidism. Hypothyroidism most common causes in developed countries, in developing countries iodine, in developed countries Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So lastly, the most common cause of postpartum thyroiditis is antimicrosomal antibodies. Okay, so by this we are completed a discussion on maternal adaptation pregnancy. Next we start with a new chapter.